playing professional basketball overseas. Is it as glamorous as it seems? Today, we're gonna dive into the pros and cons of professional basketball overseas. What's going on, everyone? It's your boy Des360, former professional basketball player overseas, tuning in to provide you with that motivational and inspirational content to help supercharge your grind, your vibe, your journey. So as I mentioned, I played overseas, right? Huge accomplishment for me. So stoked, so glad that happened. Got to travel the world. A lot of good things. Now, what we're gonna do today is assess the pros and the cons of playing overseas. So a lot of you have dreams, aspirations. Some of you have already played overseas. And we've created this list to go over what that really means. Because as glorious as it may seem on Instagram or social media when people are looking it up, there is also a lot of sacrifice that comes with realizing that dream of becoming an overseas professional basketball player. All right, let's talk about it. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe. Guys, let's get right into it. Des360. Okay. So let's start with, should we start with the pros or the cons? That's a good question. Let's start with the pros, right? We're gonna start with the pros. So number one, the pro of realizing your basketball dream and playing overseas is that itself. You're living the dream, right? You're living the dream. You've made it happen. All your hard work, what you think about every single day has become a reality. You know, you're out there. I mean, for me, it was that. College was a tough time for me. Sitting on the bench, watching my best friend play and be the superstar, which is great. At the time, my ex-girlfriend was the star player of her team and I'm here on the bench. But my trainer kept telling me, hey, keep putting that work in. What you want is beyond this. And I knew that I wanted to go overseas. And I knew that that was gonna be a brand new opportunity for me, but I also knew that I had to be ready. So all those nights, all the ridicule, embarrassment, but still staying on the grind, when I got that call, and then when I got on that plane, and then when I was 5,000 miles away from home in a new world, I was able to say, wow, I did it, living my dream. I'm an overseas basketball player. So that alone goes so far. I think it extends beyond basketball because now you can look at life and say, you know what? A lot of people said this wasn't possible. I did it. So what else is possible? So that's the number one thing. You're living the dream. That's a huge pro in my opinion. Of course, you can always interpret every single thing I list your own way. This is just how I interpreted it. So the next thing is traveling the world. You're able to travel the world. Seriously, like, that's awesome. You know, I just mentioned it. I had never, ever, ever visited the Philippines in my life. And then I got a phone call and 2 weeks later, I was in another world. You know, I was having unlimited rice. They have that in the Philippines. You go to eat somewhere and there's your people walking around with just rice, unlimited, you know, big old tubs of rice. And you just put your hand out, oh, more rice, please. So like you're traveling the world, you're going here, beautiful islands, right? That was my experience in the Philippines. In Mexico, I was traveling around, going to different towns, cities, talking to the people. I mean, these are life experiences that you are gonna hold forever, stories that you'll be able to tell your children, your family, your friends, you know? So I think that alone, being able to travel due to a basketball, this thing right here, this magical object, you know, let's start treating this like a crystal ball. It can make anything happen as long as you're good to it. So that is a huge pro, I would definitely say. What do you guys think about that? Where would you like to travel? Where have you traveled? Okay, next up. So it's a nice list, so I had to write it down, guys. Okay, another pro is literally living in a foreign country. Like that experience in itself. I just said traveling, but it's one thing to travel somewhere. We've all gone on trips. You go there, you're traveling to a place and you know you're there for 2 weeks. When I got this ticket to go play in the Philippines, it was a one-way ticket. So I'm like, hey, I might be here for 9 months. I might be here for 9 years. I ended up being there in total for around 2 years. But living in that country, you know, and I'm part Filipino. Well, I became a lot more Filipino out there just being immersed in that environment. right? So that was a huge pro. Really, it was an eye-opening experience because when you travel, when you go live in another country, you get to see how the people live out there and you get to experience different things. And I think ultimately you learn to appreciate life more. So in my opinion, that's a huge pro, especially right now. So many things are happening, like with the phone, there's so much technology, there's so many updates. It's like always something, but being able to be there for basketball, understanding that, living in a foreign country, you're just very mindful, and you're able to embrace everything and be better for it, in my opinion. Next on the list, you're getting paid. That might be first on the list for a lot of people. The pros of playing overseas basketball is you're getting paid to do this. Like, how many years have we done this for free, to be honest, right? Of course, we have it in mind, like we set goals. We know we want to play overseas or we want to play professionally or college, get a scholarly, whatever it is. But getting paid, I remember getting that first check, I got paid in cash and seeing that and being like, wow, that's beautiful, like for basketball, something that I, did for free. Now I get paid for it. So anytime you're compensated in that way, now that's actual monetary compensation. There are other ways you can get compensated too, like just being taken places. They would take us to shows. They would go have us, hey, you're gonna go have dinner here. You're gonna go meet this person. They're gonna give you a tour. I played for a team in Mexico, Manzaneros del Cuauhtemoc, and basically that was a team that was sponsored by an actual, like they made apple juice and apple cider and apple sauce, all type of stuff. I gave them applesauce too. But they took us to the factory and they gave us a whole tour and we got to meet everyone. So that is a huge pro. Just little compensation here and there, figuring things out. I'd list it, What do you guys think about that? Let's move on to the next. Okay, now this is a pro because to me, it might be the most important thing of all. You're bringing joy to other people, right? You realize your dream. You should feel really good about that, living overseas. Now you're getting to bring joy to other people when they watch you play, and then when you're not even playing. Like, I remember so many times in the Philippines going to the mall, everyone's looking at you. And I'm not saying that as, oh, you're a celebrity, even though you kind of are a celebrity. I'm more of saying it like they're happy that you're there. Most of them are. They're smiling at you. Whoa, pictures, autograph, going around. They're looking at you. Hi, sir. Hi, come here. And they're smiling. At the end of the day, to me, it's like, wow, all these people are smiling, to see me off the court. And then on the court, they're more than smiling. They're screaming, yelling, shouting. They're having the time of their life, and it's because they get to watch our team and I'm a part of that team. And that to me is like huge. Then you get the little kids coming up to you. I mean, wow, that's amazing. So what do you guys think about that? Let's move on. There are more to this list, guys. Hopefully you're liking this video so far. Make sure to comment, subscribe, hit the bell for notifications. We want to hear from you guys. Let's build this community. Des 360. All right, another one. Another pro is you're representing a professional ball club, an organization, and sometimes even the country. When I was in the Philippines, I got to play for a school. I played for a university at first, which was really cool experience just to get that under my belt. Then playing for a pro club, right? And then representing brands and different products, and that was all like on your shirt. It has a brand, it's like, wow. And then being able to represent the country. So they selected some of us and had us go to Taiwan, aka Chinese Taipei, and play in a huge basketball tournament out there representing the Philippines. Like, I literally had the Philippine jersey and like Philippines versus Mongolia, Philippines versus Chinese Taipei, Philippines versus Malaysia. Getting to do that's very prideful, for yourself and for their country. And that's a huge pro. That's a huge experience. Obviously, not all of us can play for Team USA. So to get to play for another place and just represent another club is great. And you can have that opportunity playing overseas. Okay, next on the list is your story. So the thing is, when I was playing in the Philippines, I left college early. I didn't finish college. I left early. My friends were graduating. So I'd go on Facebook at the time and see them all graduating, and I'd be like, darn, like, that's awesome. No, I'm stoked for them. I haven't graduated. But then I would get messages, people saying, man, your story is so inspiring. I want to play basketball, and I want to do this overseas life, and you're doing it, man. I want to go out there and give it my all and try, and you're living, and then you'll see people inspired by your story. Sometimes years pass, and then people come up to me, oh, you're the guy that played in the Philippines. And I'm like, what? They know that? So it's really cool to have that story that just, you never know what kind of wave you're making. Like, your story is impacting people's lives, and I believe so in a positive way, if you're taking care of what you gotta do and living in that positive life. So in that positive light. So that's another pro. Let's move on. Now, another pro on the business side of things is getting your foot in the door. I say this in like every video. That opens up more opportunities. So the pro for playing basketball overseas in one country is now you have that country under your belt, and you can leverage that for the next country and the next country after that. And that's how it keeps going. And that's how you can end up playing in multiple countries. I played in multiple countries. I know people that have played in a lot of different countries, and they all started in one country and they moved on. So that is a huge pro on the business side of things, building that player resume to move forward. And then you can leverage that for better deals. I literally was like, Philippines, Mexico, what's the better deal? And to be in that position is pretty cool, pretty great, where you're actually seeing your work paying off. Another pro is being paid. This happens some places. Being paid in cash, no tax, right? Because you're in another country, no tax. So it's just straight up cash. Like, they're like, hey, we're gonna pay you X amount of dollars. Here you go. And I'm like, wow, great, thanks. Do I have to pay anything? No, you're good. Okay, super simple. So, you know what, guys? I just covered all the pros. It's a long video. We're gonna keep it going. Let's do the cons next. If there are any additional pros that you think I missed, I wanna hear from you guys.
Overseas basketball. Living in another country and playing the game you love. This is a huge milestone for any ambitious basketball player. But where do you start, and how do you get your first contract? My name is Des360, and this is how to play basketball overseas. I'm going to share with you exactly what I did to go from college bench warmer to overseas pro basketball player. Watch my full course now, only at des360.com.
All right, now let's get to the cons. And just being honest, of course, we call these adjustments. So I don't just call them cons. I call them adjustments because these are areas or moments of discomfort along the journey. Doesn't mean you shouldn't go for it, right? Doesn't mean you shouldn't go for it. So let's get into that list. All right, y'all. I would probably say for me, this was one of the biggest cons, are adjustments, areas of discomfort, playing overseas basketball. For me, it was time difference. I was living in the Philippines, and 14-hour time difference from Los Angeles, California. So think about it. It would be, if it's 8 p.m. in Los Angeles, it's what is that? 6 a.m. in Philippines. 14-hour time difference. So if it were, 8 p.m. in the Philippines, it would be 10 a.m. in Los Angeles. So I had to be on that schedule where it's like nighttime for me, it's morning for them, and I'm talking to my family and friends, and then vice versa. So it made it tricky because throughout the day, let's say from like noon till 8 p.m., it's like hard to talk to your family and stuff. And that's tough, especially when you're living in a foreign country. So to have that time difference, you have to be ready to commit to that. Like, shoot, you know what? Wherever I'm going, right? You might not go to the Philippines, which is all the way super far. Australia, same thing. That huge time difference. If you go to Mexico, like when I played in Mexico, it was only, I believe, 2-hour time difference. That's nothing. That's simple. Could make it happen. But Philippines was like literally, I'm starting my day, they're ending their day. So I had to really adjust and figure that part out. So that was kind of as I mentioned, an adjustment period, and wouldn't stop me, from going out there again, because I did go back out there again to play my second season. So, yep, The next one is kind of piggybacking off that, leaving your family. I'm out there solo dolo. When you're going to play pro overseas, sometimes you might be able to negotiate a deal. I don't think you would be able to negotiate it unless you have a big time resume. Being able to negotiate this type of deal early on is where you can bring your family member with you. I've heard of that before where you can bring a family member, but I'm not sure, it depends per contract, if the team will pay for that family member to be out there with you. You know what I mean? You might have to pay for their expenses, XYZ. And then if they're working, they're gonna stay in the States. So for me, in particular, I was out there and my whole family was back in the US. I had some relatives in the Philippines when I was living there, but you're pretty much constantly on the grind, constantly practicing and doing things. You don't really get to see them that often. So that was tough, being away from my family, my support group, and then time difference on top of that. So you just have to have that resolve and be ready and figure out what ways that you and your family can still stay connected, and then understand that it's for periods of time. So you might be gone for a whole season, which could be anywhere between 4 to 8 months. Then you come back, you gotta appreciate everything and be with your family. So for those who really can't be away, that is something that you have to really assess if you want to play overseas basketball as a career. Next up, this one makes me laugh. The food. The food is an adjustment when you're playing overseas, because it's not like, for me in the States, I'm very particular about my food. And when I say that, I mean like I have a regimen. Like, hey, all right, I'm gonna have my smoothie at this time, post-workout, I'm gonna make my salad, I'm gonna have protein at this time. I'm very calculated. And when I went to go play overseas, it was like not like that at all. It's like, oh, you're hungry? Okay, let's go over here. And then like you just have to eat whatever they have. And to me, I was like, man, that's tough, especially, I'm a 5'11" guard. I have to be on the top of my game. And for me, it's like the food is the fuel. So I had to literally go through that. At the time, I wasn't plant-based. Like right now, I'm 100% plant-based. But at the time, I was eating anything. So for me, it was like chicken and rice all the time. Chicken and rice. Because I was like, I'll eat some seafood here and there. I have gotten sick before in Mexico. We went in and we had bomb buffet. It was great. And then, oh my gosh, I was sick. Like 2 hours later, I could feel it. So you're always gonna be making those food adjustments, especially if you're living in another country and it's a different language, which we'll talk about in a sec. Now you're like, what am I even ordering? What am I eating? I was eating a lot of fast food, not gonna lie, because, it's like, oh, I kind of know that. It's a McDonald's. They have McDonald's in the Philippines. They call it McDo. I was like, I'll go there and they had spaghetti. So I was like, I'll get the spaghetti, I'll get the chicken, whatever. So that's a huge adjustment, I would say. But now it's a new year, 2021, moving forward. I'm pretty sure that they've progressed, or you can figure out ways to create your diet. So that's something you might want to talk to with a team before you even go out there. If you're not trying to make too much noise, I wasn't trying to like add things on. I didn't want extra baggage going to the team. So I just tried to figure out when I was there, figure it out. They did have like a GNC and like vitamin shops and stuff. So I would go there and get supplements. But food is something that you're really gonna have to think about and adjust. And when you get there, be open to these adjustments, because if you're not open to these adjustments, it's gonna make it that much more challenging for you and probably give them possible reason to swap you out. I mean, at the end of the day, we're talking about it, it's a business. So you have to do your thing and produce on the court, but you also don't wanna be a nuisance or add an extra burden to the team or the organization. So something to weigh. All right, let's move down this list. I'm being honest, guys. I hope you guys appreciate the honesty. And the language barrier is the other thing. So when I was in the Philippines, I didn't know any Tagalog words. That's the language. They taught me the bad words first. So I learned how to speak. I learned how to go in a taxi and say, derecho, kaliwa, kanan, like just directional stuff. And then slowly learned other things. Kumusta ka? All these little things. But it is challenging, especially if you're in a practice and it's in a totally different language. That's when you got to rely on your heart. That's when you got to have, they call it puso in Tagalog, puso. You got to have heart, because you're going to be in so many scenarios where like you're trying to figure things out on the fly. So just be open to it. I honestly would say like laugh, smile, be aware of it all at all times, but be open to it, because the language barrier is something that you really can't control too much. You could do a little research here and there, a little translate if you're texting people, but you really just want to focus on what you can control, and then just embrace it. Don't be like, or I would say, if I were like, I don't want to speak that language, I'm this, you're in their country. So I was like, you know what, I'm here. It's gonna benefit me, if anything, to learn this. And then, shoot, I can be like, hey, I learned another language. You really gotta take it on that way, guys, because what we're learning and what we're cultivating is gonna extend beyond basketball. So language barrier, it's a toughie, but if you toughen up, you'll be better off for it. All right, a few more. It's not too bad. The other thing is culture shock. Language trickles right into that. Now you're living in another country. You're gonna see different social norms, meaning things that are just normal for people. Oh, we just do that. Like, we make a lot of jokes, or we act this way, or you're gonna see that and you might not agree with it 100%. But it's on you to be a professional. Remember, you're out there to play basketball, but you're also out there to represent and be a professional, and you're starting your career or you're progressing your career. So everything's connected. So don't leave those stones unturned. Just be out there and experience it all. And then you can know in the future, when you get your next contract, you can be like, oh yeah, Mexico was cool because of this. Philippines was cool because of this, as opposed to just being stubborn about things. But it is challenging. I remember going out there and man, they had us going places, and they make jokes, and I didn't kind of understand some of these jokes, and I was just like, you know what, it's okay, I'm just chilling, I'm gonna have fun, this is cool, all right, let's do it, guys. And yeah, it's a huge adjustment, but it's very doable. All right, long video, guys. I hope you guys are enjoying this. It's the raw, honest truth. Now, Philippines, Mexico, third world countries. That is another adjustment. It's not LA. I'm from LA. It's not here where, warm shower every day. Like, even something as simple as that. Nah, some days, only cold shower. Some days, no Wi-Fi, straight up. Some days, mosquitoes everywhere. Some days, the weather is like so many things, so many variables. You have to be open to that. It's not gonna be, most of the time, it's not gonna be like it is if you're from the US in like a city environment. It's not gonna be that high tech. There are some places that are super high tech. I believe in Singapore and Indonesia, pretty high tech, but just be open to it. And you're gonna learn and you're gonna see, and this is another thing, like third world country, different experiences, super eye-opening. You might see a lot more poverty. Let's just keep it real. And it's gonna do something to you. You're gonna feel it. And hopefully you can appreciate what you have in the US, even just when you come visit, when you're getting ready in between contracts, etc. So third world country is a real deal. Take it, be humble, and learn from it and grow from it, and be thankful and be grateful. Okay, next. Another thing is, people are gonna love you. People are also not gonna love you. That's a con. Like, you can call it a con, or you can use it in your advantage to motivate you or to rise above, and that's the thing. So you just kind of have to always be aware. That's one of the things about being overseas, always aware of what's going on. You have fun, all that, but in the back of your mind, you do got to be aware, because you're in another land and not everyone is out for your best benefit. A lot of people are out for their best benefit, and we'll just keep it real like that. It's his business too. Trickling into the next con or the next adjustment. It's business. Meaning you can drop 40 points, you lose, you can be gone. It's a business. At the end of the day, you have to produce on the court. It's business, like everything's connected. So now you're stepping into a new realm where it's not just basketball for fun, for joy. It is all that, but it's also business. Things are required of you. You might have to practice. I was practicing 6 times a week for like 6 hours a day, and I was tired. I'm like, dude, you guys are doing this, and you guys think that this is what's gonna help us win games, having us exhausted? And they said yes. What am I gonna say? No. I had to say, okay, let's do it. Because if I say no, bye, next person, bring them in, right? Obviously you can draw the line here and there, but you also have to understand that, like, if every team is training 6 hours, 6 days a week, you gotta do it. You gotta figure that thing out, So just things and being able to adjust on the fly. That's why I really call this not the con list, but the adjustment list. Last but not least, waiting for your next contract. When you finish a contract, or if the team keeps you or if the team doesn't keep you, that's the thing about chasing your overseas dream. You have to have that resilience. You have to have that resilience and the patience for this process. Like, I got an offer, I played for 9 months, then I came back home, I was home for 4 months, then I went back out for 6 months, 7 months, 8 months, and then it came back home for a month, 2 months, then I went back out for 6 months. Like, that's the process. It might take that time because you have to maneuver throughout the ecosystem, like the leagues, the different times of the leagues. Sometimes a league goes from, March till October. Sometimes a league goes from December till April, and you have to be willing to adjust. So you have to also be smart and budget your finances so that you can last and for the next. It's a whole process. Just keep that in mind, guys. I just listed a bunch. I think that's everything. Yeah, that's everything, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed this vid. Very long, very honest. The pros and the adjustments to playing overseas basketball. And once again, as I mentioned, I did it. I went through it. That's why I'm sharing it with you. Hope you enjoyed this video. Comment, like, subscribe. If you want to go more in depth, I do have a course, www.des-360.com, where I'm literally deep diving into my story and exactly what I did to go from overseas bench warmer, or to go from college bench warmer to overseas pro basketball player. So check it out, guys. Appreciate you. Let's build this community. Like, share, comment, subscribe. See y'all later. Peace.